I'm Peter. I'm a support engineer here at Automation Consultants. During my time with AC, I've worked in all aspects of Jira management, from application and project administration to underlying infrastructure and cloud managed services, etc. So what I'd like to do for the next 15 minutes is run through the various challenges that Jira administrators may encounter when scaling Jira as their business grows or their requirements expand. So while I will be speaking in the context of Jira administration, these challenges can be associated with a multitude of business process technologies in a more general sense. So without further ado, let's jump in. Jira is a highly versatile tool and can be molded to fit the dependencies of virtually any business process, from simple task management to high volume service desk platforms. It is important to consider just how quickly your Jira instance can be subject to scaling and expansion. As a structural guide to this talk, I have divvied up the challenges I'll be discussing into 5 main headers. That's system complexity, governance, people, infrastructure, and a side order of third-party apps and integrations. Clarity and control across each of these topics is a must when scaling your Jira instance. So how can each of these concepts pose a threat to business process efficiency? And how can we plan to ensure that overheads are minimized as our Jira system scales? Hindsight is always 20/20, but the aim here is to develop a clearer vision of how to scale a Jira system proactively and efficiently in a broad sense. Ideally, we will cultivate a collective understanding of how Jira can be proactively managed while scaling to avoid running into issues further down the line. System complexity may seem like a bit of a vague topic, but when focusing on the context of Jira administration, we can list some key pressure points that correlate with system administrative overheads in a scaling Jira instance. We will use this section to discuss that fine line most Jira administrators will eventually thread at some point in their careers between standardized processes and bespoke business requirements. Managing system complexity can be boiled down to applying administrative control over a number of configuration elements in Jira. And by configuration elements, I mean project screens, schemes, workflows, custom fields, etc. An abundance of schemes and workflows will eventually lead to an overly verbose Jira system that is difficult to manage, while a large number of custom fields can cause sluggishness and performance degradation. Controlling the number of these objects via the standardization or simplification of business processes to utilize existing Jira configuration elements will in turn maintain system complexity and administrative overheads while improving your quality of life as a Jira administrator. Shared project configurations are a hot topic when it comes to Atlassian's best practice guidelines. To summarize, you can and should use shared configurations across Jira projects where possible. This keeps new configuration elements to a minimum and lays the groundwork to solidify your standard processes throughout your business. Various business teams will often approach the Jira administrator with a drawn-up list of requirements for a new project to fit their day-to-day regime, often entailing new processes, schemes, workflows, statuses, permission structures, you name it. It is up to the Jira administrator to find the line between a team's business requirements and ultimately agility, and the additional overheads that would ensue should entirely new Jira configuration be created to suit that team's needs. Imagine you're the administrator of a relatively new Jira instance of, say, 4 or 5 projects. A team of developers choose to adopt Jira as their primary bug tracking tool and approach you with a project specification to mirror the issue lifecycle from their ancestor system. It would not seem like a big deal at this point to create a new software development project with new workflows, statuses, custom fields, and schemes. You, as the Jira administrator, are not overly burdened by this new project. You reckon the requesting team will rarely ask for project adjustments, and any changes would rarely take more than 5 to 10 minutes to implement anyway, so you go ahead and meet their full demands. Jump a couple of months into the future, and you realize that you've now fallen into the trap of over-compromising the standardization of your Jira processes and have 40 independent projects to administer, each with their own unique schemes and field configurations. And this is where we meet the concept of a bottleneck, which Rodney will be discussing in further detail in the next talk. Have you the bandwidth to accommodate for an influx of configuration adjustment requests from multiple business teams at once? If you were to move away from your role as a Jira administrator, where does that leave your end user or the successor to your role? Has all the custom configuration work been documented for easy handover and future maintenance? Applying a limit, where possible, of course, on the number of project configurations to maintain in a Jira instance can often be an unpopular choice to the end user. However, in the long run, the benefits of a Jira system operating smoothly at scale will be realized through optimal overheads and platform visibility, accessibility, and control. In short, we do not want to pigeonhole our business teams into oversimplified standard processes, but find that point of optimal gain between end user agility and system flexibility. In addition, The savvy administrator of a medium to large size Jira instance would run regular reports to identify those projects that are no longer in use. Projects that have reached the end of their life cycle are best archived to keep Jira's issue count optimal as the application grows. The second point to consider in a scaling Jira system is governance. Project ownership or product ownership can be ambiguous as Jira scales and expands within a business, but needs to be deterministic from the get-go. As Jira is adopted across teams and departments, it is important to keep governance centralized and clearly defined. Similar to system complexity, this topic touches on finding that balance between controlling system processes and compromising administrative control over your Jira system. A Jira administrator needs to understand how to share power responsibly and with the right number of users. Often, each individual team lead or department head would like the option to create and manage their own projects, workflows, schemes in Jira, you name it. Jira project admin rights do not satisfy their requests as they are interested in creating new statuses, custom fields, transitions, etc. at their own leisure. Too many cooks, as they say, can spoil an agile project management solution, but there are many things to be considered when deliberating whether to grant Jira admin privileges. Firstly, is the prospective Jira admin well-versed in Atlassian's best practice guidelines? There is no inherent issue with having many Jira admins on your team, given that they have an understanding of Jira administration best practices and of the responsibility that comes with the role. Problems occur when the admin team's collective understanding is diluted by loosely granting Jira admin privileges for convenience's sake to users who may not fully understand the impact that seemingly small changes can have on a global scale in Jira. Do the prospective admins' projects share configuration with separate departments? Can you be certain that departments will not unintentionally interfere with each other's business processes? As touched on in the previous topic, shared configurations should be encouraged in a scaling Jira instance. Given that many projects share a limited set of configuration schemes, how easy would it be for a newly empowered Jira admin to make a change to their own project that would completely disrupt a linked project used by a separate department? And this could be anything from removing a key field from an issue screen to associating an entirely new workflow with a shared workflow scheme. Does the prospective admin understand the potential performance impact of creating custom fields for every specific need? As mentioned while discussing system complexity, haphazardly creating new objects in Jira can lead to eventual performance degradation of your application. Are you running the risk of compromising your process standards by diluting your controlling stake in Jira globally? Here we link fully back to system complexity. You have fought hard at this point to establish a set of standard configurations to fit a majority of business processes. Can you trust that new Jira admins will not fall into the trap of creating fully bespoke project configurations without recognizing that there are standards in place that should be maintained? What other privileges are you granting these users? The power of Jira admin extends significantly further than creating custom fields and workflows. New Jira admins can, for example, enable or disable apps, trigger a lock and rebuild of the Jira index, which would render the site inaccessible until complete. They can run external system imports, which can be extremely messy if not handled with care. And more importantly, they can also add other Jira administrators, which just further extrapolates the problem and further decentralizes control. Much like process standardization, rigidity in Jira system governance is likely the unpopular vote from an application stakeholder's point of view. However, it is a surefire way to proactively maintain efficient scaling in a growing solution. Keeping governance centralized and controlled is a tried and true method of minimizing system noise and business disruption. And you might be asking at this point, how many Jira admins should I have then? Your governing body should have the bandwidth to manage and accommodate for the throughput of change requests received from your user base, which will of course vary from business to business. My advice here is to be conservative at first and expand your team of administrators carefully as your Jira instance scales. Governing Jira admins should have a shared vision of how the application is best developed. So those are the two headliner concepts of this talk. Most challenges faced by a Jira administrator when scaling their instance can be resolved proactively via standard processes and centralized governance. This brings us to the third point of this talk, and that is the people, your users, your trusted business teams. What role do they all play in ensuring that Jira scales smoothly and as expected? As Jira scales and your user base grows, so will the demand for additional Jira administrators, project leads, service desk agents, etc. How can we ensure that these users are equipped with the necessary skills to realize the full range of features available to them and operate Jira responsibly? How can we extract the true value that Jira can offer your business? It is important for all Jira users to have an appropriate training to match the level of control they have within your Jira instance. And this does not necessarily mean formal certification. Day-to-day users can benefit greatly from well-maintained internal documentation of the business processes established in your Jira instance. An internal knowledge base with guides on how to interact with issues throughout their workflow cycle, or documentation of available permission schemes and their associated roles and privileges will help new users and administrators alike. For more specialist roles in Jira, Atlassian does offer a library of training resources, ranging from all-powerful Jira System Administrator certifications to day-to-day Jira User Foundation courses. Encouraging a skilled user base will, of course, provide trickle-down benefits across the board for all points discussed so far in this talk. It is important to maintain your users' confidence in your Jira system. A new user's overall attitude towards Jira is greatly influenced by the application's ease of access, which comes naturally with a clear and concise collection of documentation of your Jira processes. Failing to convey the value Jira can offer your teams could eventually lead to users reverting to ancestor or non-agile systems such as email, Excel, Kanban tools, etc. Our next point of discussion speaks in the context of on-premises deployments of Jira, server, and data center. Underlying infrastructure is unlikely to be at the top of a Jira administrator or product owner's list of concerns, but will need to be considered periodically in the long run. As Jira scales, the importance of service availability can increase significantly, so we need to be sure that Jira is running on the right spec to serve its user base. Infrastructure is likely to come up at times of license renewals, application upgrades, external integrations, etc. A Jira admin may notice from their own user experience or from a pattern of user reports of poor site performance or instability that it may be time to upscale Jira's underlying infrastructure. But in the meantime, how can infrastructure be adopted into this proactive mindset we hope to encourage while Jira scales? It is important for a Jira administrator to recognize the future demand for their Jira service as additional business teams join the site. The prudent Jira admin will be looking ahead at the expected growth of their Jira instance and keep the capabilities of their current hardware and JVM configurations in mind when assessing future projects, integrations, and apps or add-ons. We also do not want to jump the gun on increasing Jira's hardware resources far beyond their necessary specs. An increase in infrastructure is also an increase in operational cost. So again, we are looking for that optimal cost benefit to ensure that maximum value is realized from your Jira deployment. Setting up quarterly reviews to assess the rate at which your Jira instance is growing, for example, combined with your choice of monitoring tools at application, network, and server level, provides a strong medium to gauge the past, present, and future performance of your Jira instance. As availability needs change, administrators might consider disaster recovery options with suitable recovery time objectives. Many product owners may choose to unburden themselves of the responsibility of maintaining infrastructure and shift to a cloud deployment of Jira, but this is not always the best choice for a given business. The differences between Jira on-premises and cloud deployments are not something we have time to cover in this segment, but you can always read up on the topic on our company blog. The point of third-party apps and integrations may not concern every Jira administrator out there, but in some scenarios, it is crucial that there is a clear understanding of how incorporating a new app in Jira can impact the service as a whole. When a new app is requested or there is an integration in the pipeline, there are several things to consider. How integral will a given app become in your Jira system? App licenses are dependent on the user tier of your Jira deployment, so the long-run costs should be considered versus the benefit the app is likely to bring as Jira scales. Apps can be difficult to remove once they are adopted by numerous teams in your Jira instance, so we should have a clear vision of the future cost benefit of any given app. A Jira admin should understand the potential performance impact of making a plugin available to their end user. The larger your Jira instance, the more activity there is to be expected from the added plugin. Let's briefly take Adaptivist Script Runner as a prime example, a fantastic app that greatly enhances Jira's capabilities in the fields of custom scripting. Those of you who have used Script Runner in the past will agree that it provides a multitude of great features right out of the box. It can be used to provide convenient, low complexity script fields and post functions to fit a user's specific needs. But as Jira grows, the usage and complexity of custom scripts will likely increase. So it is important for a Jira administrator to understand the magnitude of how this app's computational requirements will scale in the long term. Because the world of Jira plugins is so vast, particularly for on-premises versions, the best advice I can give is to choose your apps carefully and value necessity over convenience. Be sure to thoroughly test any new app or integration in an appropriate staging environment before deploying it in the production environment you have worked so hard to scale smoothly and efficiently. And that concludes my segment on the various challenges faced by administrators when scaling Jira. And now would be a good time to mention that we will be offering a Jira system analysis form to our webinar attendees. And this form will be shared with you all via email after the event as a free resource.